Alright guys, so finally figured out how to check to see if the user input a string, and also for this specific one with your guys' calendar assignment to check if they put in the right number. So what I did was I made two ints, just ignoring the arrays and stuff like that for now, just to check for the inputs. I made two integers, input and total days. Input is for what the user first inputs, the day of the week that the user wants the calendar to start, and then total days for the total days in the month. So what I did was I made two methods, one called check day of the week and the other one check total days. So the first one, check day of the week, passes in the scanner, the reader variable, which I have here, and assigns that it's going to return an integer, and I assign that to input. And I did the same thing for total days. It returns an integer and sets it to total days. So let's check this first one. As soon as you start the program, we'll start it now, it asks right here, input a number to start the calendar. So the first thing that runs is the method check day of the week. So let's go down to that and check day of the week. So it, like I said, it sent in the scanner, and I called it IN just for this one. And I made another input integer. Since it's out of scope, I can still call it input and it'd be okay, and assigned it to 0. And just skipping this, it returns input. So regardless if it goes into here or not, it doesn't complain. It'll still return a 0 if nothing gets run correctly. So I don't know if your teacher has gone over that much into loops. There's a do while loop and there's a while loop. I don't know if you guys know the differences. I'll just go over it real quick. A while loop right here, like you know, it runs the loop until this condition is met. It only enters that loop if it needs to go, if it goes through this condition and it's not met, then it starts going through the loop until it is met. A do while loop does that, except it does the loop until it starts the loop first, until it reaches this condition down here. So the do loop starts here while this is here. So it enters the loop first and then checks the condition after the first iteration. The while loop checks the condition first and then enters the loop if that condition isn't met. So there's that. So what I have is a do while loop. So first it does right here what it says down on the console, input a number, start the calendar 1 through 7. So then it checks this if the reader dot has next int returns a boolean. So I put a not in front of it, so what the user puts in, if it's not an integer, so down here I'll put a string. It prints out that is not an integer, and it says int.next. Probably a better convention to say input some, re-inputting this. So then I put int.next, so it checks what the next, it goes into the next input of what the user puts in. So then let's put in, it's saying, hey, let's do this until you find an integer, let's say 9, which is out of what we need. We want something greater than 1 or less than 7. So let's do 9. And it goes back up to here.
Mom, get your shoes out of my bathroom.
There's Jesse. It checks here after it reaches that first iteration, says while the input is less than 1 or greater than 7, it's going to keep looping. So it goes back to this. We can input a string if we want, and it says that's not an integer. So finally, let's put in 4, and that meets that final condition. It's 4, it returns the input. 4 will be assigned to input up here. So then it goes into the next method, check total days. Once again, sends the reader. It's going to be the same idea. I make an int input. I make it a do while loop. This time it says how many days are in the month, 28, 30, or 31. Exactly what it says down here in the console. And same idea with the while loop inside the do while loop until it has this loop right here. Will keep going through until an integer is shown. So once again, we could put a string, and it says that is not an integer. So then let's put, since we want 28, 30, or 31, which it says in this while condition down here, let's try 21. And then once again it says how many days are in the month, 28, 30, or 31. And so let's try 31. Hey, it works. Okay, so there's that. That's basically what you guys are looking for with checking for strings and integers and making sure it meets the correct one. If you really want to be fancy, you can put this itself into its own method, so you don't have two of the same while loops in your code. It looks more elegant. Not necessary though for this situation, just because it's a small little program. And if we want to really go over the how I made the calendar into this, what I decided to do was, so like I said, it returns, going back, it returns 31 and inputs it into total days. So I have another while loop here. This one can be deleted actually, because that's what's in that method. Sorry, didn't clean that up. Okay, so I assigned another count. Since we want the calendar, normal calendar starts at 1, I make int count equal 1. And then I have a for loop here that creates int I equal to the input minus 1, since the first row of the array, every array actually, is 0 based. We want it to start at 4, the fourth element, and since it's 0 based, we want it to start at 3. At the third spot of the integer, fourth element, index 3 is the correct term. So we input 4, we're going to make I equal 3. So then we set I for a condition to be the length of the calendar, pretty much how many columns are in the calendar is what it's checking, and then I++. So we make calendar 0, since we're only accessing the first week. Right here, we want it to start on Wednesday, like it shows down here. It's only accessing the first row of the array, and then I for every column equal to count. So count will start at 1, and then we increment count. So every time it loops through, it starts 1, then 2, then 3, and 4. And once it reaches the end of that column and that row, for loop ends. So since we actually kept track of count, we want to input the rest of the calendar, but we also want to start at the beginning of the week and the next row. So I made int, another for loop, int I equals 1, since we want to start now at why did I put this? Right. So I is going to be row. If I really wanted to be make it more readable, I'd say row here, and the next one column. So we're having I equal 1, I is less than calendar length, and increment I. So yeah, we want it to be I equals 1 for the row, because we want to access the second week, which is the 1 index. So it'd be 1, row equals 1, 2, 3, 4. So we nest another for loop in there to access the columns, and we want it to start at 0 because we want it to start at the beginning of the week. And then to check the length of the columns, what you do is j is less than calendar. You can do 1, 2, 3, whichever is in the whichever rows in the array. You could put 0 here if you want, and that's probably a little more conventionally correct. And then dot length, so that will check how many columns are in the 2D array, and then j++. And then now I have a condition here. If count is less than total days, because we want it to count up all the way into the total days that the user put in. Since it's 30, it'll stop at 31. Or I'm sorry, since we put in 31, the calendar will stop at 31. And then we do calendar I, which is row, j, which is column, equal to count, and then count plus plus once again. So that'll input it all the way into 31. And so when you make a 2D array, what I have here, calendar int, before you even initialize it with any variables, if you just make new int, I put 6 rows, 7 columns, 7 days of the week, 6 because I just checked the maximum length, the maximum rows a calendar needs if the day starts at Saturday to say, so then that would bring it down to here. So 6 rows, 7 columns. If you don't initialize it with anything, since it's an int, it'll fill the entire array with nothing but zeros. So we change that here. We make the calendar ij equal to count and increment count. So it's technically the array is 0, 0, 0, 0, and then it increments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 31, 0, 0, 0, 0. So what is this loop right here? Day of the week I. Oh, right. So this is my little print statement for the days of the week. I made a string array day of the week, and I just put Sunday through Saturday on here, and that's all that it prints is the day of the week array right there. It's kind of really crammed in there, but it works. And then I made a method for print array, passes a array calendar. So I'll go down that method. Print array takes in the int calendar, int row, column, all equal to 0. It's basically just like it says, a print array method. And then for row equals 0, column equals 0, normal nested for loops to print 2D arrays. Once it's in these 2 nested for loops, I check if that specific element that it's on, if it doesn't equal to 0, print it, else print just a tab. So that's why you don't see the zeros here, because if it does equal 0, it'll skip this condition right here and it won't print it, and it'll just print the regular one there. And that's it.